Hi everyone, my name is Mirna, and today I will be talking about the modernism, more in particular, the steel architecture of the 19th century. Let's start with some history about the movement. So, it first started after the Industrial Revolution, and it emerged as a way to keep up with the recent changes in society and the needs of their everyday lives because there had been a growth in both population and in the industry. Um, the architecture had to accommodate these new changes, and one way they found to do this was to opt for functionality in the structure. This is to say, they preferred to build simpler and faster structures in order to keep up with this rhythm. Um, and because of this, some critics have considered this movement more as an engineer field, not as much as an art movement as others, because again, this was using a little bit more of science. It had another preferences. It opted for simplicity and functionality. So an important thing to note with this movement is that in prior years, in the architecture, metals were not, let's say, the main focus. They were not the main material in the constructions. They played more of an auxiliary role. They were used for bonding, um, let's say, as strengthening chains for the domes, to tie roads across the arches, for roofing, doors, the windows, and as well as decoration. But it was until this time, until this movement in the 1800s again, that in this case cast iron took a more important role in the construction field. It was used as a substitute for traditional structural materials and was used in the construction of bridges as early as the 1779. So this was a big step in a new era of construction. Because of this, with this change in the use of materials, there was an increase in the demand of it, and first, it was quite hard to keep up with it. So this changed when the American James Bogardes created a system to produce in mass the cast iron. But the way this functioned, this worked, is was that iron was cast in small, almost identical structures that were already put together, so they were easy to assemble. Because of this change in the production of the cast iron, um, building something could take as little as 2 months. Um, so at first, cast iron was mainly used, but then there was a change. Um, they switched from cast iron to steel because cast iron has much more compressive than tensile strength. Um, to put it some way, it works better as a small column than as a beam. So, because of this, there was a switch to steel by the late 19th century, which is more uniform strong. So, the strength um, is divided equally along the structure. It is elastic and it has a high resistance in stress, so it can be closely calculated. So, general characteristics of this movement, the phrase form follows function can summarize this movement very well because the architectural designs um, again should opt for functionality, should be simple, should not be that much oriented towards designs. It should not have many ornaments than necessary for its function. So it's a more minimalist take on the construction. And the pioneers, so this movement was first seen in both France and England, and they were pioneers in both the architecture and the urbanism during this century due to their economic position. Another important thing to note is the design. As I mentioned at the beginning, for some critics, this is not considered art, but rather engineer, and this is because many of the former examples or the most recognized are designed by engineers, not really architects. And many of these designs were criticized by architects um, because they did not approve of the simplicity of the structures. But again, these were focused more on the functionality, not that much on the ornamentation. So, some remarkable examples are the first iron bridge, which I mentioned previously. It was constructed from 1775 to 1779, and it is located in over the Severn River near Coalbrookdale in England. Again, this was the first bridge constructed using iron. Let's remember that previously they were constructed mainly of wood, so again, a big change. Another um, famous bridge is the Brooklyn Bridge, which was constructed by John A. and Washington A. Roebling. It is located in Brooklyn, New York City, in the United States, and it was constructed from the 1869 to the 1883. And there is something worth noting in this bridge. It is a 6,000-foot road, and the bed is supported by steel wire cables, which are the ones connecting the top from the other side of the columns. They connect all the bridge. Um, and well, the change in the materials was mainly because due to the modernization of the cities and the industrialization of them, um, there were other needs for transportation. The materials they were needing for other types, other procedures were heavier, so wood bridges were not as resistant, as well as there were cars going through them. So there was a need for stronger structures which had more support. So again, that's where these bridges came from. Other structures very famous are railroads. Again, after the Industrial Revolution, there was a need for railroads, and this was something new because bridges had been erected for centuries, but railroad stations were not. So this was a new creation. And this is the King's Cross Railroad Station. It is located in London, and its construction lasted from 1850 to 1852, and it is constructed mainly of steel and glass. So this was other thing quite common during this movement, the incorporation of both materials, steel and glass. Another very famous building is the Crystal Palace, which was erected for a special occasion, which was the first ever international World's Fair. It was in London from 1850 to 1851. Um, it was built with the prefabricated modules of cast iron and glass, and the interior for a while contained galleries for exhibits from all around the world. However, it was only erected for a limited time, so it's no longer there. And another thing, due to its similar form to a greenhouse, it presented problems with the weather and humidity. So other very remarkable constructions are the Galleria by Giuseppe Mangini, which was constructed from 1865 to 1857 to 1877. It is located in Milan, Italy, and similar to the other buildings mentioned, it is made by steel and glass. During this period of time, it was quite common for metal glass constructions to be used as department stores or shopping malls, so they can be found all around Europe. This one in particular is located close to the church, and it has a central dome made of glass. And what might be the most famous structure out of this movement, the Eiffel Tower, designed by the architect Alexander Gustav Eiffel and was constructed from 1887 to 1889. It is located in Paris, France, and it is made of iron. This was first a commission for the Universal Exhibition of 1889, and during the first years it was heavily criticized by the Parisians, and it was actually called the Shame of Paris. It was supposed to be taken down after um, this exhibition was done, but it was never taken down, and so to this day it's still there. Um, I think that it's very important that as time changes, so does the things surrounding society to accommodate the population needs. And one of the ways this can be reflected or this can be shown in is in the architecture. Opting for a simple structure for simple building buildings is something valid, especially if there is a constant growth in population and there is more need for urbanization. So by creating simpler designs, it allows us to build more things in less time. Um, so it's a very valid position. However, I am personally not fan of minimalism, but I think that as long as there is a reason, there is a function to a building, to a structure, and it carries it accordingly, there is no need to complain or to say anything else about it. So that will be all. Thank you so much for watching. If you here are the my references, the pages I consulted. So that's it. See ya.